What's going on, guys? Evan the Dark Souls enthusiast here, bringing another Dark Souls gameplay commentary on the PlayStation 3. This is going to be a continuation of my Let's Play series. This will be the first This will be the first video that's featuring some slight editing because got a little hung up there in the depths, just due to some invasions and, well, one invasion, things just not really going my way, so had to edit it out a little bit, but the vast majority of what I'm trying to do is still there, so for all the purists that want a Let's Play to include every single scene ever, but that said, I want to share some of my general observations I've had while playing New Game Plus. And I've played through New Game Plus, you know, a lot of times, but I don't really put a lot of thought into New Game Plus, and I think that probably is one of the most powerful observation about New Game Plus. As you'll see in the video there, I just kind of got jumped by the Red Drake. I couldn't remember what had happened to him, if I killed him, if I didn't kill him, because there's been some big breaks between my Dark Souls gameplays, and I don't know why I went through that. I really have like probably 8 Hollow Soldier Shields at this point. Anyway, whatever. And I'm a little out of my groove on commentating as well because of, you know, that whole student blog thing going on there. Must get through graduate school. I kind of wish that, you know, during my senior year of undergraduate or, you know, my freshman year, like there was times in my life where I remember just having lots and lots of free time and not really doing a whole lot. I kind of wish I had been into gameplay commentating, or at least have been doing gameplay commentaries during that period of time, because it would have been nice to have, you know, plus 50 more videos on the channel, like, without taking away from my studies and things like that, so, oh well. Missed opportunities, that happens. I'm decided to try to make, like, the length on these, like, 30-minute segments in general. That's not, like, an absolute standard, but I feel like 30 minutes is, like, a good... 15 seems so short, and anything over 30 seems like it sort of drags on a little bit, so I'm going to try to keep these to 30-minute blocks. Hopefully I can find decent stopping points between video segments, like maybe I can down a boss in 30 or something like that. I'm not sure, but we'll see. Anyway, I was saying, New Game Plus thoughts. There are some things about New Game Plus I just really don't like, and some things I do like. The upgraded difficulty is not really a big deal to me, but considering all my characters only wind up being PvP builds, the thing I really don't like is the fact that at a certain point I can't really level anymore. Like at 125 I'm done leveling, and one of my favorite parts of role-playing games is having the opportunity to, like, level up in whatever capacity it is. I mean, whether that be through an experience system, or a soul system, or whatever it might be. Anything where I get to customize my character is really addicting for me, because that's just, it's fun to build characters. That's often why I don't bother this box glitch stuff, is because I feel like the character just isn't, it just doesn't do it for me, because it's, you know, I've played through the single player so many times now that I'm not really particularly interested in playing through it again. But at the same time, like, when, you know, bottomless box glitching a character, I'm just not even gonna, I'll never PvP on it, because I'll just know that, you know, I've completely, like, cut out, like, the heart of the character. I feel like, you don't take the time to build your characters, or you don't take the time to level them, like, legitimately, you kind of just wind up in these situations where it's like, I don't know, like, the character, you just don't really own it like you would a character that you play through the game with. And I found that the characters that I took the time to play through the game progressively, I've done, you know, I've had a lot more fun with and stuff, so maybe that's just me, but I think that when you're just going to bottomless box with the builds, you'll go through them so quickly, you know. And there's a lot of builds I need to go back and visit. I've got plenty of completed PvP builds. I feel like I put like one 4-hour clip of PvP builds, or PvP with one build, and I never go back to it. And probably a waste, considering I've, you know, there's a lot more to learn with these weapons. I get parried there. A big part of you know, PvP is actually learning your weapon, not just learning your character build. So a lot of depth and complexity in this game. So I think that's why I keep coming back to it. In regards to New Game Plus, I don't like the fact I have to stop leveling at like 120 or 125, like I said. I don't like the fact that a lot of the stuff I'm doing in New Game Plus just becomes so, not only is it repetitive, of course, but that's natural. It's the fact that 90% of the things I do don't matter. Aside from buying a second stack of spells, getting additional stacks of boss souls, like, I don't know, it just feels like with New Game Plus, like, you're better off just making a new character. That's why certain builds that require you to play through the game 2 or 3 times, like a dedicated Pyromancer would require you to play through the game, like, oh man, probably, if all you're going to use is Pyromancy, at least 3 times minimum, at least, because you'd probably want many stacks of Greater Combustion, you'd want at least 2 stacks of Fireballs, probably. I don't know, the point is, to get a variety of spells, you have to play through the game multiple times, and I almost wish that Dark Souls had coded it so you could only have 1 stack of a particular spell, with an increasing attunement instead of giving spell slots would increase, like, stacks of magic in the slot. You know, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think probably my biggest disappointment with Dark Souls was the spell system. I like it more than Demon Souls, though, because I really didn't like spamming grass for everything. For those of you that didn't play Demon Souls, there weren't flasks, and you had like an MP bar and a life bar, stamina bar. So how it worked was with the MP bar, you could heal it just like you could flask your mana up. And that was interesting, except like because there's no limit, like the limit was like 99 stacks of X healing item, you'd find people running around with like 99 full heal grass and 99 like full mana spice, because spice is what healed magic in that game, and PvP became a lot of like, when can I sneak my grass in, and grassing was a lot easier than flasking because it was quicker and it was a full heal and it was harder to interrupt. Although you didn't have poise though, so if you got interrupted you couldn't just rely on poise to make it happen. So that's a big disappointment for me, is the fact that in New Game Plus, aside from the added difficulty, there's not a whole lot of tangible benefits to your PvP or anything like that. And providing you didn't stop leveling at 125 for PvP, there really wouldn't be a huge increase in difficulty, because if I could take my Vitality up to 99 and then like gouge Dexterity and stuff like that, it would really defeat any kind of difficulty that New Game Plus would have provided. So I definitely think there could have been a better system for that. And just the whole spell system in general. It's fine, like it's not bad. Really nothing in this game, in my opinion, is particularly bad. There's just things that are preferred to have been done differently, and a lot of other people have their preferences. That's one of those things where, when you're a developer, that it's probably pretty complicated, because there's so many different like tastes and preferences. You kind of have to, like, how do you stay true to the vision that you want, what the people playing the game are going to want, what other people are going to want, what the publishing company wants. There's all sorts of like considerations that have to go into making these games, and I can imagine that it gets really, really complicated making a game. It's one of those things that I usually find myself raging on developers about their decisions sometimes, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this developer did this, what an idiot. Of course, then in retrospect, I'm like, well, you know, different people like different things. Of course, to be fair, there's certain games where you can just see, like, wow, that's a terrible choice. Like, Darkwood Grain Ring, like, that was clearly a terrible choice. I mean, we've all come to play with it and accept it, but come on now, like, the ring completely breaks the whole, like, equip encumbrances, and it takes a huge element out of the character customization when you could put Darkwood Grain Ring on and get a much larger carry weight along with an overpowered roll. Clearly a poor balance choice where it was decidedly the best ring for single player. And I find that every time I say anything about the Darkwood Grain Ring, that I usually get a host of comments saying that they don't think the ring's overpowered, and that they think this ring is better. You know, whatever, to each their own. We all have to state our opinions, but I definitely think that I can make a pretty compelling case for the Darkwood Grain Ring being the most impacting ring on your character. If you prefer other things, that's fine, but realistically, that's just clearly the best choice for making like an optimized character. That's not to say that people don't use it. Like, I could see where the only build I could see where the ring just wouldn't do a lot for you would be like no endurance. Yes, there are no endurance builds that are actually successful. Not a no endurance build. The ring isn't really going to do much for you, because the odds of you being able to make it worth your time are pretty slim, because you're not going to be ninja flipping around in poise armor without leveling endurance to 40 or 35 or something like, you know, to a break point. So that would, I could probably see a case for not using it then, although I don't know what you'd use instead. Probably Ring of Favor and Protection, where the endurance wouldn't really help you. Maybe just magic casting rings. So I've noticed like no endurance characters routinely are pretty much casters, like high faith, high intelligence casters that use Crystal Soul Spear and Wrath of Gods together to form like the best of both worlds of Magic. Because unfortunately, when it comes to faith, Wrath of Gods is what I see people using 99% of the time, which is it probably is the most versatile faith-based miracle. But there's for sure other miracles there that are really useful that people just sort of neglect to use. Like Greater Magic Barrier should get more love. The heal should get more love. People just wind up popping Humanity instead. But if you were following like a I don't believe in using Humanities and I don't believe in flasking kind of thing, like if it was a no heals kind of thing and people actually adhered to it, then Miracle Heals would be tremendously useful. I used to do Miracle Heals on my characters, but the reason I stopped doing it was because I would take the time to go hide from my opponent or to find a window, and then I would Miracle Heal, or to find my opponent and just counter Flask. No effort for them, lots of effort for me, so kind of got away from that whole Miracle Healing thing, but it's really sound in theory. It was a really sound, balanced thing in theory for making Faith more than Dark Moonblade and Wrath. In terms of completing the single player, Faith is probably the most useful attribute just because it lets you use Homeward over Homeward Bone, which early in the game when you're short on shoals is short on souls, excuse me, can't talk, that's actually pretty useful. Faith in general is a powerful stat. Wrath is great for killing crystal geckos, great for killing mobs of zombies and things like that. I don't know. So if you're trying to do easy single player playthrough, if you don't want to do like Vitality Elemental Gouge, then I would recommend Faith. But back to my original sort of lost topic, which is New Game Plus. I don't like the inventory system in Dark Souls, and that really comes out in Dark Souls. For those of you that like the inventory system, I don't know how. Because when you collect multiple items, it doesn't show up in your bottomless item box or inventory as like a stack. Like, I have 7 Hollow Soldier Shields. It just showed that there's 7 different entries for Hollow Soldier Shield. That's an awful way to do it, in my opinion. I could see where, like, if you modified it or upgraded it or did something like that, where Hollow Soldier Shield would, be different than a different Hollow Soldier Shield. Or it wasn't like max durability. Like, I could see where you have to break off the stack if you have max durability or something to that effect. But like, I don't see why I have to have like 9 stacks of it. And it takes forever to pick them up and drop them to the ground, to ditch them. It takes a long. But the quickest way is to sell them to Frump. But if you side it with Capra, then you don't have access to Frump, and you have to wait till a new game to start dumping items. So I hate on New Game Plus, where I'm typically carrying around lots of Humanity, and I have the Gold Serpent Ring and things like that. I wind up just getting huge stacks of items. I could wind up not picking up items, but since enemy drops are not guaranteed, I have no way of knowing what I'm going to get. So, like, if I see a Skeleton Soldier die, I know that he could drop a Humanity, and I wouldn't mind, or Humanity, excuse me. I know that he could drop a shard, and I could buy shards, but why buy what I can get for free? So I go and pick it up and wind up with a Hollow Soldier Shield. It's not like game breaking, it's just a big inconvenience in the inventory system where it can take you a long time to get through and manage your inventory and things like that. And I think that's something they should have addressed. I don't think it's anything that's likely going to change. Maybe the PC players will mod it and get the best of both worlds, but I know in my case I'm pretty much just stuck to deal with it unless I buy Dark Souls on PC, and already owning 2 copies, that would probably be a waste of money, especially when I'm spending money on MTG cards again, the ultimate money pit. For those of you that don't play collectible trading card games, objectively analyzing them, they are fun. If you like anything, if you like strategy games at all, or you just like games of luck, because almost all collectible trading card games are a mix of both, it's hard to see where you can criticize them because it's the perfect expression of a luck and skill combination game. But that said, it's the ultimate money sink. Like, you spend so much money to play them, it's unbelievable. And they also feed your avarice. Like, if you're not a collectible trading card player, this might not make sense to you. But if you do, then this will make sense to you. I could just have one, really good tournament deck or one deck to play with my friends, but man, my buddy's deck was really cool, and now I want to make it, and I want to make something like it, and I've got this idea for a deck that would be really neat to try, and I really need this super expensive card to really bring the whole thing together, and wow, the company keeps making cards rarer and rarer, and the secondary market values keep going higher, and oh, but it's so fun, I don't want to quit. That's kind of a collectible trading card game in a nutshell, I think. That's why so many people wind up sharing collections of cards and things like that, just to cut down on the cost. And it's like anything else, there's a way to do things on a budget, but when you do things on a budget, they're usually just not as good as when you do things not on a budget. So, collectible trading card games are like anything else. You have to live within your means, but I find that avarice can often overrule good common sense. But, back to New Game Plus, yeah, I just don't like having huge stacks of useless items in my inventory that I have no interest in using. But it takes a long time to discard them, so I usually wind up just letting them sit in my inventory, and I just try to stay away from my item box as much as possible. For example, when I'm kind of chilling in the kiln door and I kill the Black Knights just for something to do as I wait for someone to invade, so I wind up like enormous stacks of Black Knight weapons. Because once again, I want those stones, some of which I can't buy. So I've got these huge stacks of like Black Knight Great Axes and things like that. And stuff that on new characters I'm desperate to drop. Like, man, I'd really like to get a Black Knight sword for this fight. And I'm always hoping, like, I've got 10 humanity stacked when I kill Black Knight, like, come on, baby, drop your weapon. And then it doesn't, of course. And at the end of the game, I just get stacks and stacks. And a simple supply and demand there. At the end of the game, the supply is very, very high. Early in the game, the supply is practically non-existent. And the demand is, well, only myself. So that's a big disappointment of New Game Plus. Another disappointment is how sloppy I tend to play my New Game Pluses. You know, I compare my level of skill on New Game to New Game Plus. It's pretty interesting. Like a New Game, I'm very methodical and careful, and I rarely take hits from trash mobs, and I go into boss fights prepared and things like that. Whereas in New Game Plus, like, I'll go fight bosses with like two stacks of flasks left and like half life. Use one flask to get to almost full life and then go fight a boss. I just don't worry about it because I know, despite the boss being harder, I'll be overgeared and things like that. Now, that's just a big disappointment to me. I mean, I believe the jump from New Game to New Game Plus is the biggest jump in difficulty. Someone correct me if that's untrue. That's how it was in Demon Souls, so I assume that's how it is in Dark Souls, but that could be inaccurate. I'm not really sure. But in any case, it's kind of how it goes for me. So I just I've got poise at this point. You know, Havel's set for poise, and I've got a 1 to 2 shot kill weapon or anything that's not a boss. So I find that I usually just suicide charge at enemies and then fail miserably. It's pretty impractical. I love games that let you play back through the game more than once. I loved on Parasite Eve 2, for those of you that played the Parasite Eve series. Parasite Eve was an example of a game that lets you replay the game without the difficulty getting harder, but giving you access to new areas that were plenty challenging. I don't know. You know, I'd much rather Dark Souls let you do New Game than not, obviously. I mean, that's sort of a no-brainer. But at the same time, I do just kind of wish that the difficulty either got harder or there was added benefits doing it other than getting to rebuy my spells. Just having the opportunity to play through the game with my character already built was pretty fun. But unfortunately, since I'm such a customization whore, it's a bit disappointing. Other things I dislike about New Game Plus, not really much of anything. You know, I like having the option to do it, that's for sure. Like, New Game Plus is something I think should be in most RPG games, if not all. I'm always shocked. Like, I was really shocked that Deus Ex didn't let you play through the game again. The developers sort of stated on their developers' interviews that the reason you couldn't do a New Game Plus on Deus Ex was because they really didn't want people to just have like one super character to play through the game. They wanted people to have to make different characters, and you know, I get where they're coming from with that, but at the same time, like, I think giving the people the option wasn't that bad of a thing. I definitely see the argument. It's all sorts of things that I get. And this is a terrible PvP match. We're fighting this narrow corridor. I'm using a Black Knight Greatsword, or a Black Knight Sword, which this character isn't even designed to use. I don't have adequate stacks of my Pyromancy. This guy's gonna pop Humanity, and he's got trash mobs guarding him. Anything that could cheese this fight is pretty much happening, so I'm already not tickled to death with this invasion, so I decided I'm gonna basically just make a run for it and jump over this hole here and make a stand right over here. To be fair, this, like most of my Dark Souls gameplays, now there's huge breaks between gameplays, like maybe a week between Oh, that's my cell phone. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that, guys. I'm on call. At the time of this commentary, I'm actually on call, so anybody that calls me, I have to take the call. I can't just ignore it. That's inconvenient. Pretty much if anybody from the college, whether it be student or staff, calls me, I pretty much feel obligated to take the call, whether I'm on call or not. You know, if I'm not doing something I can't... You get the idea. I'm on call. Even when I'm not on call, I feel like I should do everything I can to help. That was just a student calling me to tell me that some other students walked by him carrying, you know, bottles, which is not shocking in the least. Like, not carrying bottles, but they had bottles, like, in their purse. So if you guys are in school or going to school, like, just like an FYI, I always want to tell people this, and I guess my commentary is where I get to tell people things. Never, ever assume that, oh, that guy got the clutch roll past my sword swing got behind me. But never, ever assume the college officers are just too stupid to know you have beer on you, or bottles in your purse, or in your backpack, or whatever. Normally we know, we just don't do anything. You know, if we chased around every single alcohol violation we see, we wouldn't really have lives. At this point, you notice I'm doing this. I don't know there's a fog wall behind me because I haven't played Dark Souls in so long, and I'm just basically doing everything wrong. Like, I'm trying to one-hand Black Knight Gray. Like, if you could do it wrong, that was it. So, I blew that duel, and then I got, like, demoralized because I knew I could have outplayed that guy and won, but I didn't. I lost the match I should have won, and that just demoralized the rest of my gameplay that night. But with that said, just got to get over these things. So yeah, like, a couple rules when trying to carry alcohol on yourself. A, if your backpack is jingling, you're doing it wrong. Like, if you actually want to make sure you're never caught, like you don't want to rely on the good nature of the housing department or the RAs or campus safety or whomever you might encounter, make sure your backpack does not jingle. Make sure your backpack does not take the form of an alcoholic beverage, i.e. if it looks like a triangle and or the bottle is stretching your purse or your backpack out considerably, that's not good. C, you know, if you're walking at 2 a.m. with a backpack, I realize you might be walking to the library, but probably not, so don't be shocked if you draw attention to yourself. These are all common sense things that I notice a lot of students just really never figured out. When I was an undergraduate, I didn't drink because I'm a nerd, and I just didn't do those things. Probably should have, probably would have had a much better time. That's not an endorsement for drinking. But, you know, one of those things where I just see people, I'm like, man, I don't drink, but if I was drinking, I wouldn't do it like that. That's kind of my thought process that I applied when I talk to a lot of students in conduct hearings and things like that, because I'm a conduct officer. It's like, you know, why? Did you think that you weren't going to get caught? And I guess the answer to that should be, well, it would be stupid to say yes now. I remember, I hate when people used to ask me that in high school, or whenever, you know, you've ever done anything wrong and you have to answer to an authority figure, and they ask you rhetorical questions like, did you think you'd get away with it, or did you think this would be okay? It's like, well, being that I'm in here, it would be stupid to say yes now. I guess that's my sarcasm and cynicism just reflected in everything I do. Regardless, for some reason, I've always noticed this. Whenever I do gameplay commentaries, there's certain areas in Dark Souls I just don't commentate very well. Or at least not well enough in my mind. Like, whenever the commentary's over, and how many retakes I make, and how many times I retry, I don't like it. And I never like how the depths comes. Like, right now, I'm not real thrilled with how this commentary's going, but I know I can redo the depths 9 or 10 times, and I still won't enjoy how the depths go. So, I guess that's just a commentary on my reaction to the area. These channeler guys, I'm a big fan. So I know absolutely no segue skills there, but I do like how there's channelers spread throughout the game, and finally when you get to the Duke's Archives, you find like sort of the home base of the channelers. I wish they explored more lore behind some of these enemies. This is one of those games that's teething with lore already, but a lot of it you have to write yourself or get through inference. It would be nice if they just put more things to infer into, I guess. Souls is one of those games where it does everything so well. Like, I can give this game a 10 out of 10 to anybody I recommend it to, because I know no game is perfect, so onto the standards of gaming, you know, I give it a 10 out of 10. But the flip side, like, there's so many things I think they could have done differently or better. But I have to keep in mind there's a development budget, there's time, there's all sorts of things, and because the company sort of is anti-DLC, you know, they couldn't add things after the fact, which I think is admirable. A lot of developers have sort of, I think, turned to that notion of let's just make sort of half-baked, unfinished games, and then we can release them later, put some DLC on them. Of course, if we don't get PC-level DLC, that will be a true slap in the face to the fans. Anyway, the Gaping Dragon boss fight's going to come after the editing, so I don't talk during boss fights. Maybe next time I'll talk about some thoughts I had for the next PC version of Dark Souls, and as always, I apologize for the huge breaks between commentaries, but life just gets in the way sometimes. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Everyone take care. Hope to see you all next time.